Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. The 29th of May is virtually round the corner. It's fast upon us. So if we were to fast forward to that time and we have a new administration, there are those who are saying that if there's going to be any honeymoon at all, it has to be very, very short, given the nature and the extent of our problems. In other words, they expect the incoming Buhari administration to hit the ground running. In fact, you know, quite frankly, they themselves from the party of General Buhari, the APC, have signified this by anchoring the whole premise and the whole exercise on the word change. Things have to change. Okay, now they've been handed the mandate. Imagining that all the celebrations are over and now we're down to business, what are those things that should engage the incoming administration so that Nigerians indeed can say change has come? And then how we have to be reasonable about it. We can't expect that within 48 hours there will be uninterrupted power supply everywhere in Nigeria. That's not going to happen. We understand that would be unreasonable. But what are the reasonable expectations in the short, especially in the short, possibly also in the medium term, so that it can indeed be seen that a change has come? And that's what two gentlemen will help me, explore. Dr. Femi Adegbulu, Assistant Professor of International Relations and Security Expert. Thank you very much for coming on, Femi.
My pleasure to be here.
Indeed. And Yemi Makpadero, Mr. Makpadero is a governance and strategy consultant. Thank you, as always, for coming on, Yemi.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Indeed. So, Femi, if I could start with you. If a new act comes into town and its banner is change, it means not what we're doing today, not what you've been used to in the past 10 years, in this case 16 years, that things are going to change and change for the better. What, to your mind, Femi, are those short-term things that are meaningful and that would not necessarily factor into whatever the long-term goals are that the incoming administration must do for the people who gave them the mandate to say that true, change don't come?
Thank you very much. It is indeed that the expectation of the people is quite high, very, very high, against the backdrop of the fact that the rot that we find ourselves has been so deep indeed. And we have to be taking this thing one by one. But one parameter for measuring this change, whether change has occurred or is beginning, is the personal example of the leaders. Okay, when I say personal example of the leaders, what are they willing to concede? What are, for instance, some of the conveniences, personal conveniences that they are willing to concede? Because when you look at the past administration, you look at the lifestyle of leaders in those past administrations, the life of opulence, vis-a-vis, the kind of squalor that the majority of Nigerians find themselves in terms of economy and all that. So if the leadership is able to purge itself of this opulent splendor, so people will begin to see that, look, really, a change is coming. And also, that's why I'm also passionate about what happens in the National Assembly. Those jumbo pay also has to be revisited, seriously. The jumbo pay that pitch the people against the electorate, as if they are not from this planet, as if they are not from this society. So if they are really going there to serve, and it's a voluntary service, there should be sacrifice. Okay. And that sacrifice is one of the few things we want to see in the short term, that the people who are there now, they have embraced the concept of a change. And that will go a long way in affecting all other things that will be happening thereafter. Then we talk about zero tolerance for corruption. Zero tolerance, as in when you sniff it and you perceive it, whoever is involved in it, you single the individual out for punishment, and that will serve as a deterrent. Because I've always said on so many platforms that, look, it's lack of deterrence in Nigeria that has given rise to this impunity.
The culture of impunity.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you. I'm sure there's a lot more where that came from. Yemi, the way Femi started out and even ended, it seems to me that what he's saying is that there's going to be some belt tightening that is necessary. Now, belt tightening is not a favorite political device anywhere in the world, sometimes as important as it may be. I'm also, in addition to this, I'm exploring what the ordinary voter who bought the message that was sold of change can look forward to. Yep. When I say look forward to, you know, we've discussed it often on programs like this with Femi, yourself, your good self, and other eminent analysts, that how has my position, my situation been impacted? Yeah, if the guy who was taking 7 million naira a month home, he now finds a way to be taking 1 million naira a month home. I mean, if that is the way it is, but nothing has changed in my house. You know, I still am struggling to put breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the table. Would it have really impacted us?
Well, let me start by saying I align myself, 100% with Femi's opening salvo. But again, it is important for us to understand the environment in which we find ourselves today, and you have graphically painted that picture. It is a picture of very high expectation. And on the other hand, on the flip side, it is very clear and obvious, even from the body language of the party that won the election and the candidate that won the election at the federal level, that they know clearly that their work is cut out for them. And that is why you found, you find out that post-election, there was actually very little celebration. Post-election, a lot of activities have been going on, in terms of,
they've been setting up a transition team,
yes,
study some of those reports that are in the cupboard somewhere,
Yes, and in addition, they've also attempted and tried, to temper or moderate the people's expectation by some of the pronouncements. And this goes without saying. Now, at times like this, there are two ways to actually make the followers to understand, and be patient with the government and support the leadership. One is via motivation. At this point, motivation may not be appropriate for this incoming government. The next thing that the government needs to do is to use inspiration. And when you inspire a people, what you have tried to do, or what you attempt to do, is to make them to believe in the direction that you have set, is to make them ready to make the necessary sacrifices, And one of the ways to inspire, the followership, in this case, the mass of the Nigerian people post May 29, 2015, is one of the things is what Femi alluded to, leadership by example. And I'm so happy that from even the legislature, the incoming legislature, we've been hearing a lot of things about people wanting to go in there and make sacrifices. I listened to Bemre Bruce two days ago, and he said he was going to live a Spartan life. He already unveiled the vehicle he's going to drive for the next 4 years as a serving senator. He's talked about a whole lot of things, which he had actually practiced in his own private life, which I think he should bring, to the table at the National Assembly. And of course, we know that the executive is led by two persons who have actually been exemplary in terms of, living, Spartan, kind of lives. And the second thing,
a life devoid of conspicuous consumption.
Devoid of conspicuous consumption. Now, the second thing that needs to be done immediately, we are talking of the immediate now, is that speech that the president is going to read on May 29, the inauguration speech. That speech is capable of doing what I have just said. That speech is capable of actually, inspiring the people and making them understand how, the road is going to be like. It's going to be rough, but at every point of the way, it's going to get better.
And it goes back to this leadership and leadership by example thing that you spoke about.
Yes, those are some of the tactical things that needs to be done. But the strategic thing that needs to be done is to understand the mindset of the people and to come out with the kind of, speech that can allay, assuage their feelings, allay their fears, and inspire them to look forward to a better future.
Thank you very much, Yemi. I just remembered something I read reporting on General Buhari, and he had said at the time, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think about 3 weeks ago or so in the Punch, he was talking about why his cabinet was going to be small, and inter alia he had said that you have to convince Nigerians that they are taken seriously and that their rights are being respected. If you can't do that, then General Buhari has said that you will not know peace. So he knows that his work is cut out for him. He appears to know, and why wouldn't he know, the average Franco-Lise common man Nigerian. With due respect, the eggheads are in the ivory towers, the think tank, technocratic experts, they're all doing their own thing. But the ordinary man is the person who, because that is where the real power really lies anyhow when it came to the votes. Those are the people, these are the people perhaps that need to identify with whatever sacrifice is necessary. And General Buhari arrived here, he arrived in office on this whole platform of the Spartan living, you know, anti-corruption, how everybody in his cabinet is now seen in that same light. I think that would be a monumental change if he can pull that particular one off. And it might possibly make easier all these things that you gentlemen have said would need to be done. Yeah. Because people would identify with it.
Yeah. I think one of the things I expect, I don't even know the right nomenclature now to call Buhari, because General, we should not be addressing him as General, but it's true.
Well,
whether Madam Buhari
there was General Eisenhower, and then
but Obasanjo came in there and changed from General to Chief. But even David Mark, nobody calls him as Colonel or General David Mark. So
maybe President Buhari will just
okay, maybe we can start calling him General Buhari,
like
but you know, the man is known as GMB, so he's been in the psyche of people.
Okay. Well, what I expect GMB to do, ab initio, is actually to call his people together. And the list of ministers that are being submitted here and there, so call all the people concerned who are qualified, you know, to hold one position or the other, letting them know his agenda, letting them know his pattern of administration. You know, of course, some of them have got wind of how the man is, his austere life and all that, driving it into them that, look, this is the pattern of this administration. And anybody that is found wanting, you know, one way or the other, by Nigerians, okay, he will just look the other way and let the law deal with the individual. So if he's able to tell them that all of them will be on their toe. So it's only those who are willing to work, who are willing to sacrifice for the people, who are ready to work for Nigerians. Those are the people we see as ministers. And so we begin to examine them from day one in office, looking at, you know, their body language, their speech, and whatever they do. Of course, the public opinion will always be there to judge each one of them. So, but like I said earlier, this is very, very, very vital. People who are coming as ministers, you know, they are going to face the public opinion.
Of course.
Are they qualified in the first place? Or is it the normal pattern of finding a job for the boys or something? So, you know, we are going to scrutinize all of them.
What we always do. Remember, we scrutinize our football teams.
Yeah, exactly.
We scrutinize national honor
awardees.
Just give us any list. Okay, we will scrutinize it with a microscope and arrive at our own conclusion.
Exactly.
We say, we say to ourselves, what is this one doing in that list, for goodness sake?
So, and I know there is going to be rejuvenation in so many areas, including the EFCC and all. You know, we've been talking about strengthening institutions and all that. You know, some of these institutions have gone comatose already. They are just there, existing just by name. So those things are going to revitalize, and then we see one or two examples.
Yes.
Because that is always the problem. When there is nobody that have been made to show as example or a kind of deterrent, people just do what they like. But with one or two persons having been, you know, picked, you know, to have be flouted the oath of office,
then people will begin to get an idea that you're going to be sincere.
The whole thing will now, you know, come down to the populace. Everybody, like the first shot he had in office, for instance, the culture of queue in public places, and being conscious all the time where you were, making sure that you don't do anything that will flout public order and all that. So he can bring those things back again, because the first person is a disciplined person, okay? And that thing we expect to flow down all the ministers down the ministry and all the pastors. And before you knew it, the primary school also will imbibe the culture. Okay. This thing has to flow from the leadership.
Yes, indeed. But people have observed that, look, President-elect Buhari, GMB, that in his first coming, he had decrees behind him. So whatever he wanted had to go in your own interest. Not so anymore, but that goes without saying, no doubt. The issue is, yes, this is the problem. General Buhari, no matter how austere, no matter how Spartan, no matter how disciplined, single-minded he is, he's a Democrat. He got voted in as a Democrat. And so he's going to have to carry people along. It was Nuhu Ribadu who said that when you fight corruption, it fights back. Corruption that we all say General Buhari should come and address is going to fight back. Now, there are going to be political aspects to the whole thing. There's this whole matter about job for the boys. Make no mistake about it. They're going to have to pay. People have worked. So how do they now not betray those lot, that whole lot, and give us what we want? Because if you ask most Nigerians what they want, I think they'd say, just give me somebody who can do the job, a technocrat, not somebody chop by chop, somebody who is, that's not what we want. We want somebody who can do the job. It's not as straightforward in a political environment, is it?
It's not going to be. And I think I heard
I
heard you make allusion to scrutinizing of our national football teams
and all those things,
all those lists. Yes. But you see, the distinction between that and, say, a ministerial list, for instance, is that the president will not put that list in the public domain for scrutiny. The moment he announces that list, that is his ministerial
and we scrutinize
list.
It after the fact.
But of course, the National Assembly now has that responsibility to scrutinize. But it will even be a very bad way to take off for even one nominee of the president
to be questionable.
And so he's got a whole lot of work to do in that regard. And I have no doubt in my mind that he has the capacity, to do that. But of course, the balancing act also has to be brought into play. Like Riley pointed out, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for instance, mandates a president to pick at least one minister from each of the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. And so there may arise a situation whereby the political leaders, the party leaders in those states will be the ones to forward, the list of nominees, to the president. But if I were in, the GMB's shoes, I would insist on sending a long list of qualified people to me. And I read a few days ago, I think yesterday, that was what, the former governor of the old Midwestern state and later Bender State General, Obemudia did. He asked for
options.
He asked for a list of those who may likely oppose his government. And they sent him a list of about 10 people. And you know what he did? He picked all of those 10 as his commissioners. Because he said he didn't want yes men.
Okay. I didn't know that particular story, but I can see Femi nodding in approval.
That's so.
Now that is a wondrous idea, right? It also takes guts. And it also seems to suggest that I'm going to run a transparent administration here. If people who are likely to be opponents of my administration, at the time he was making the request, people didn't know why he was making the request. Send me a list of 10 people who are likely to be in opposition to my government. You then go and appoint all of those people. What could be more selfless?
I think a good administrator should know that those who vehemently oppose his administration, many of them do not do it out of malice. It's because they love his administration to succeed. But most often in Nigeria, we don't see it that way.
Because some also will do that out of malice.
That's why I say it's not all of them. So the onus is on you, the leader, now to actually scrutinize those who are actually sincere, who don't have anything at stake.
Yes.
They are not politicians, and they are just speaking their mind, the way things should be, They don't see it done that way. So they are now correcting by way of casting a kind of maybe mild criticism on the government. Okay, they are not affiliated with any known this thing. They're just speaking their mind. So such people, for instance, should be scrutinized and tested with a political office, okay, to know how they will do it, okay, not just somebody who just criticizes it for the sake of criticism, or maybe somebody from opposition party who does not see anything good in what the incumbent does. It's not that. But the style that he just mentioned, now, this is a wonderful style.
It is
I would recommend it.
And it takes guts.
It takes guts.
It takes a person who is...
And large-mindedness.
Yes,
to
and
be able to accommodate...
who is also self-confident.
To accommodate your quote-unquote enemies.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we expect that to happen.
The thing with...
Except that the surprise element is no longer there. So if you ask them to give you a list now, they possibly will give you a list of their friends. Yeah, but the leader, just like you said, the leader has to...
he has to
read in between the lines.
He has to be able to do that. Now, the thing with the issue with this idea of yours, well, it's not so much an idea as you relating to us an anecdote from in the past. Whereas theoretically, General Buhari, GMB, so that I don't mention that offensive word in a democratic setting, not that it's really offensive. He will arguably have control over his political soulmates in the APC. So they would know what he's doing, what his objective is, what his persuasion is, and so they would know the kind of people to even propose to him, because I imagine everybody must be on the same page. But where, as you pointed out, he must appoint somebody from at least one person from every state of the federation. Now, in those states where his party is not in power, he doesn't have control over that. And they might not live up to all these high, noble orders of, ascetic living. They might see it totally differently. And so the people that would enter into the mix would surely muddy the waters a bit. As you said, his work is cut out for him, because in spite of that, he still has to get on with the job.
Correct. A leader has three major roles to play. One, the first is to set the direction, which I believe is quite clear to everyone now. Even throughout the campaign, the theme has always been on three issues: corruption, the economy, on your security. Now, the second major job a leader has to do is to align forces. And when we're talking about aligning forces, you're talking of, different tendencies within the system. At this moment, from May 29, GMB will no longer be a candidate of APC. He becomes the president of Nigeria. And his focus will not only be in, areas or states where his party won or where his party is strong, but there must be a very, high level of, equity, in terms of distribution of offices, in terms of, distribution of infrastructure and the rest of it. The entire space called Nigeria is his constituency. And I think before he became, he sworn into office, he seemed to have started on a very good note. I was happy to read, recently in the papers, that he actually dispatched, a high-powered delegation to lobby for Dr. Adesina, Akinwumi Adesina, as the president of the African Development Bank. And this was an Adesina that appears to be one of the very few ministers that actually actively campaigned against General Buhari. So that is one. Well, a lot of people now have seen it that way, but somehow it tells me that the man is actually going to be looking for what is best for Nigeria. And that is one area you can align forces. In fact, I have read about people suggesting certain names that are even in the current cabinet of President Jonathan. That these people are actually good enough to make your cabinet. I won't delude myself to think that they will make it into Buhari's cabinet. But I'm sure it will be on the lookout For those who possibly don't have any overhang of any encumbrances around them, you know, who are not necessarily members of the party, to be in his cabinet.
It does indicate something, doesn't it, Femi? What Yemi just told us, that is also common knowledge now. Additional, you know, Buhari, you know, dispatching Atiku and other people to go lobby. And we all saw the picture of them with President Zuma and Additional himself. But you see, here it goes back again. Don't know very much about it myself, but most Nigerians, I think, would say that, oh, Additional, no, he's a good man. He knows what he's doing. The guy knows his stuff, you know. Most Nigerians would say that. What that stuff is another matter, but that's the way he's perceived. And clearly, Buhari also sees it like that. Indeed, APC sees it like that, because even though it is Buhari who has issued the instruction, no doubt he says very little. President-elect Buhari says very little without talking about his party. I've got to see what the party thinks. Don't try to trap me. I won't speak for where my party should be speaking. So clearly, he's making sure he carries his party along. And when you see this kind of an indication where Additional, for example, just that one example, it does show the kind of the kind of mental political attitude that we have, don't we? You're not just saying because he's APC, because he was of the past, I don't want to see anything about those guys. That is not the way he's going.
Yeah, actually,
it's not a winner-take-all kind of a...
It's not supposed to be like that, because the Additional guy, I never knew him to be a politician until he was appointed.
Okay. But did you know of his reputation as a...
No, not really. Okay. But his activities actually has proved the kind of person he is. And all Nigerians have approved of him as an achiever. So based on that, of course, if he defended the person who pays his
of course, it's in order.
For instance, it's in order.
He has to be loyal.
He has to do that, because that's why
when the time comes, if the time comes,
exactly,
he shifts his loyalty to the new commander-in-chief.
Exactly. First and foremost, he's a Nigerian. Okay, if a PDP government appoints him, for instance, so he had to do the bidding of PDP, and that's just how ministers are supposed to be. So for that, he has actually proved his mettle, and Nigerians have seen that this guy is an achiever. So if he's brought into the new administration, I don't think it's going to be a plus for GMB's administration that, oh, he has a large heart to have appointed a key figure in the past administration.
Large heart is one thing. Yeah. Large heart is one thing. He's got his head in the right place. Exactly. Is another.
Exactly. Because that guy, the minister, was almost the face of the past administration. Okay, because he was almost everywhere, and we saw his achievement and all that.
Well, we were trying to diversify agriculture and all of that.
So if he's able to do all that, there is no doubt that if he's even made to retain the same ministry in order to continue the job he started, I don't think there's anything bad in that. That's not to say that it cannot fit in other ministry, but I want to believe that there have been some ongoing programs right now which all Nigerians approve of. Such a thing can be continued.
And all of this is not. And all of this is not even to say that Dr. Additional will be appointed.
That's another thing.
You know, it's important that we're just talking.
No, but we are just advising as Nigerians that it will actually show the incoming administration as a government that listens to the voice of the people, and who also is not too much overtly, considering things based on politics. Because if you are going to be political here, you say no, he's not an APC man, so it should, so something like that. And also, we should not forget the leadership of the National Assembly, because when we are talking about all these things, National Assembly plays a very key role. And when you are talking about rewarding those who have actually performed excellently by bringing the party back, and also showing the world what the party can do, and even based on their own personal pedigree, we should be talking about the appointment in the hierarchy of a National Assembly. Now, particularly
but that is already a done deal, in the sense that... What I meant to quickly explain the done deal is that people have arrived in the National Assembly as we speak. That is, they've been voted in there. Yeah. Well, the kind of people they are, it remains to be seen, because you got to have a particular kind of crop to in an ideal case scenario, everybody would be aligned to Buhari's moral compass.
Yeah.
But that would be an ideal case scenario.
Yeah.
People have arrived in this crucial assembly, the National Assembly, and maybe even state assemblies, with different motivations.
But for instance, let's
motivations.
look at the role of women. Let's look at the number of women that are coming back,
Sure.
and so the factor that
Okay.
led to why some of them came back.
Okay.
Now, we look at a particular woman in the Northeast, for instance, I think the Honorable Khadijat Abba Ibrahim. She's going to be the third time and the third timer in the National Assembly. And she's the only one in the whole of APC in Nigeria that is a woman that is coming back. A person like that whose pedigree is speaking for and who has done a lot for her own people and also for the women folk. I think such a person should be given a shot at the national, at the hierarchy, like leadership or deputy speaker, for instance. And the Northeast is seen to have been marginalized somehow. So I'm just thinking as a detribalized Nigerian who wants to put things in perspective. A woman like that, based on her pedigree and what he has done for her people, look at her area have been decimated by this Boko Haram, this thing. So a woman who was at the forefront of liberating her people and even visiting all the IDPs to make sure that they provide money, food, and clothing for the people. I think when you talk about rewarding people who have actually been flying the flag of APC, I think Honorable Khadijat Boko Ahmed Ibrahim to be somebody who should be given that kind of position as a deputy speaker in the National Assembly. Okay. I need to, as a beacon to other women.
Before I interrogate that idea, let me bring in Iloko. I don't know if it's a Mr. or Mrs. Iloko from Agege. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Iloko. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, my name is Iloko Mark. Calling from Agege.
Oh, Iloko, ma?
Iloko.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to commend your efforts in this program.
Thank you.
Because you guys are doing wonderful work. What I want to the expectation of Nigerians to our president in rest. The expectations are too much and it's too high. And the thing is that GMB should see his election as the president of Nigeria, not for a set of people. Right? And because if you look at what is going on in Nigeria government, it's not something that encouraging the youth of this country. It's something that even encourage the youth to go and do something that is not even helping this country. That's something that paints this country in black image. What I'm expecting General Buhari to do in his government is that he should see himself as the president of Nigeria, not a president of APC. Okay. Not a president of the leader of APC. Because we Nigerians give him the power to lead us. Because you should remember that Nigeria voted for GMB. Goodluck, I mean to say. He voted for Goodluck in 2011. And he disappointed Nigeria. That's why Nigeria voted him out. He should remember that. And if eventually GMB did the same mistake, he should know that we are going to vote him out in 2019.
Indeed.
God bless.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Iloko, for calling into the program. Now, Femi's idea, notion, you know, that one, do not shortchange women. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the population distribution is like. Maybe we have 50% women, 50% men in this country. I don't know. But yeah, it's an important point. But I suppose behind that point would be the bigger one of a person who can do the job, not just for patronage, not just for it to be seen that this job is held by a man or this job is held by a woman. I think primarily it has to be this job is held by a competent person, because we can't afford frills where we're at now, and having been there for 16 years, according to the incoming administration, where in 16 years the country has just been marching on one spot, according to what has now become no more the opposition, but now the ruling party. Is it one of those crucial things, do you think, Yemi, or is it just something that would be nice to do?
Now, I totally agree with you that there must be a propensity for always looking out for the best man or best woman for every single appointment under this administration. And that is very critical because I have likened Nigeria to an accident victim.
Could you please hold the thought? I've just been told that Alabas called him from Sabo Oniba, so I want to take him and then I'll come back so you can continue. Sorry for interrupting you.
Good morning, Mr. Shifiori.
Good morning, Mr. Alaba. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, you have Alaba Lakwe calling from Sabo Oniba Ojo.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Yori, like the first caller said, there is a lot of expectation, high expectation from DMP. But to me, you know Nigeria, we are suffering from one particular thing. It's generality, which is power supply. Look, if it is only power supply GMB will do for Nigerians within the 4 years, whereby Nigeria can be using 18 to 19 to 20 hours of power supply. And then if it is just only 7 people that will do the government and will survive it, please let him come about it. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alaba, for calling in there. That is something that the outgoing administration, for instance, there are those who said it at the time, at the beginning.
Exactly, that's become a refrain, really.
If it is this power thing that President Goodluck Jonathan will do for Nigeria, his name will never remove from history. Those were the kind of sentiments at that time. Yeah. Well, it has ended. The power situation is worse, I'm sorry to say. Evidently. So now people are saying, at least that gentleman, Mr. Alaba, is saying that, look, if he doesn't do anything else, let him fix that power.
You see, governance is an integrated, thing. Yes, there must be priority, but the kind of mindset, attitude, the imperatives that will make power to become stable in Nigeria is the same thing that will make other sectors of the Nigerian nation to become what we desire it to be. So there are certain things that the government really needs to focus on, foundational things, fundamental things, and we have mentioned one of them. One of those things is the exemplary leadership. The issue of ensuring that the hemorrhage, the bleeding. I was going to say that I liken Nigeria to an accident victim at an emergency ward. At that point, the first thing you want to do is to stabilize that patient before you
stem the loss of blood.
Yes,
first.
Exactly. Before you start thinking of how to treat the fractures.
What is the blood in this case? What is the blood in this case?
And that is the issue of corruption. The leakages.
Let me quickly bring in Abiodun from Onipan. Good morning, Mr. Abiodun.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
I love you guys. I love your program.
Very kind of you.
Before the change, you are there for us, and time the change has come. What I want to say concerning GMB program is that the first thing he must deal with in Nigeria is corruption. You see, if it will take him 1 year, the first 1 year, to put some people in jail, so that others that are coming will know that this is a serious government. Exactly. So my wife is working with the federal government. They just paid them this money. You see, they have taken all over Nigeria. They have taken all the money in Nigeria. They have embezzled. They need to be put to jail. If you see this, if this man can just do this in 1 year, everybody will have the mindset of going there and do the right thing. They will have the mind of going there and do the right thing. Because let me tell you, sir, an average Nigerian that wants to go to government wanted to go and steal, not to serve people. So please, I beg him that the first thing, if we could do the issue of corruption for the first 1 year, let him leave the issue of NEPA, let him leave the issue of corruption. Everybody is corrupted. The Lord will help this country, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abiodun.
Maybe I should just land on that note.
Yes.
Honestly,
because I said, what was the lifeblood that has to stem? You said corruption. Yeah. Abiodun comes on corruption.
Look, if we took care of corruption in Nigeria, you're going to have improvement in power. You're going to have a higher rate of employment. You're going to have stability in the economy. You're going to have people conducting themselves, better. The image of Nigeria is going to soar, to great heights. So, and that is it.
If you can take care of corruption. And it's a tough one because we've established that corruption fights back.
It is a tough one, and that is why it's not really about putting people in jail. That's part of it. It will serve as deterrent, right? Especially high-profile corruption cases must be probed. And I just read in the papers this morning that a certain senator-elect has rushed to the court, to preempt his being, extradited to go and face charges. Because yesterday,
yes,
somebody was, a judgment was given that a certain past public officer in Nigeria should be extradited to go and face charges overseas. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. Once you set the tone,
yes,
everybody was. Eseme Yibo was saying some time ago, he was on your program yesterday, that the moment Buhari was declared as president, corruption went down by 30%. I don't know how he came about that calculation.
I don't know how he came about that particular figure. Who did you say is on the line?
Hello.
Pastor Williams from Ojoduberger, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in, Pastor.
Thank you. It's nice speaking with you for the first time. What you are discussing is so interesting, and my little contribution is that the incoming government should find a way of reducing waste, because there's so much waste in the system. For instance, what is the presidency doing with 10 aircraft for crying loud? It can be reduced to about 2. It is not enough when they have special assignment. They can lease the aircraft. We have so many private aircraft in the country. So other waste in the country. Then people need to be reorientated. I was not too young during the time General Buhari was the head of state. The orientation he did with Idi Agbon that time, we are still talking about it today. People were meant to know that they need to be disciplined.
That was a military administration.
I know. It can still be done in a subtle way. Yes, in the civilian, whether it's civilian or military, that does not stop people from being disciplined. Yes, just need to orientate them, reorientation. That's what I believe. And then the third one, I know that one is a long-term measure. The electricity, like some people have said already. I'm telling you, there are some people who are out of the country today. If we can have a stable electricity, they will come back. There are a lot of things people can do for themselves if we have stable electricity.
Okay.
So thank you very much. I think that's the little contribution this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for the big contribution, Pastor Williams. It's a big contribution.
Let me just conclude my line of thought
on that area. Corruption or where?
We have talked so much on corruption.
Yes. And where Williams was talking about just now, we started from there about austerity, eschew conspicuous consumption. And so he was talking about what do we need 10 presidential planes in the presidential fleet for. Other wastages and leakages have to be blocked. And this is where political jobbers and political associates, this is where they just go and sit down and just be chopping their own from. They're not actively, these leaks are sometimes intentionally left there.
Do you know that even
to be dripping into some mouths?
The Prime Minister of Britain flies British Airways. Okay. And so other countries of the world, they fly their national carrier. But it's only Nigeria that is different. So we buy, jet upon jet upon jet. So
it comes back to reorientation that the pastor was talking about.
I think all the political officers would have to align themselves with the personal philosophy of the leader.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you. This orientation you people are talking, I see all those flowing agbadas. I see all those pot bellies. I see all those shiny skins. These people are already oriented in a certain kind of way. They didn't arrive there overnight. Are you saying that we're being realistic, pragmatic, that there shall be an reorientation to please leave your Bentley and your Rolls Royces at home because the leadership is driving a 504, for example? I'm being extreme, just to underline the point. Are you sure that's going to be a doable proposition? Or won't that, if we insist on it, actually call out people that would otherwise never have had a look in an administration like this?
But don't forget, it took just a Lee Kuan Yew to put Malaysia where it is today. And there are so many other world leaders that have laid good examples. So that's what we are saying about personal example. When the leader, for instance, comes to work 8 o'clock every day, who is that deputy or lieutenant who
that will be arriving at 9 or 11?
That personal example, when it is there, and you cannot pin the leader to any corruption charges in any way. So if you are found guilty in any way, the leadership will just look and just strengthen the institution to deal with the individual. As simple as that.
Let me see if I can remember. I got to take this call, Alhaji Subaya from Alimosho, but General Obasanjo was on Steve Saka's Hard Talk yesterday. I'll come back and talk about that. He was asked a very hard question about corruption, and the man, because I've heard somebody here say that, put some high-profile persons who deserve it in jail, and it will make a difference. Obasanjo was making the case that, look, an Inspector General of Police who was convicted and trying to explain that. Hello, sir. Sorry. Please go ahead, sir. Alhaji Subaya from Alimosho.
Mr. Yuri, you have borne my death by the economic instability. You have put my credit. Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Yuri, let me go ahead. You see, the expectation as regards GMP. Please, I want Nigeria to understand something. You see, you made mention of something. GMP was the military, and now we are now under the democratic, government. You see, the issue is this. Leadership is for services, service to humanity. The expectation is not only for Buhari alone. It is for all our leaders. I want to ask you a question, Mr. Yuri. When you are living in your environment, I'm sorry to ask you that. Have you ever seen your counselor, you understand, doing something in your environment? You see, the issue is not only Buhari alone. Now, all our leaders, they are going there to serve. Nigeria has tried their own. They have done all the necessary things they do. They are paying the sun, paying the rain to effect change. And now the change has happened. You understand? So, you see, that is why I'm saying the expectation is not only for General Buhari, it's for all the services. All our leaders to please know the expectation of Nigeria will make change in all ramifications of government. You understand? So, and look at what our president, now Jonathan is still our president. He said something about a few days ago. He said, the defected PDP, they will come back empty-handed. That will tell you the analogy, the interest, the mindset of our leader. They all go there for their own service interest, to loot our social. We don't want that again. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling in, Alhaji Subaya. Well, corruption was tackled in the previous administration. I was telling you about President Obasanjo saying that, look, because I intended to use that to sort of ask you if that is going to do much good, because Obasanjo, no doubt, speaking about Tafawa Balogun, and so that there were key people who are convicted within his administration. What more do you want me to do? That is when Steve Saka of the BBC had actually said that you Obasanjo, who said you are not corrupt,
No, so obviously, I mean, the former President Obasanjo could have done so much more. The conviction of Tafa wasn't even a proper conviction. He escaped with a slap in the wrist. He spent just a couple of weeks or months in prison, and he went away with his loot. So you need a sustained effort, in this regard. But of course, I'm not here to make excuses for Chief Obasanjo, but I do not think that General Buhari will fall into that trap. I sincerely believe that having sustained this high level of integrity for so many years, it's not about to drop his guard.
No. And people are looking to him to fix corruption. I think one gentleman just said that, let him use the first year to try and prosecute cases and throw a lot of people in jail. Then everybody, the whole country will sit up and say, you mean this kind of thing can happen? Thank you very much, Veronica, for holding on. Agbara, good morning. Veronica, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, ma'am.
Please, my contribution to this program is I would like General Buhari to also check the work of the governors too in their state, whether it is PDP state or APC state. Anyone that is found corrupt should be jailed. because most of the governors, after collecting the monthly allowance, they will just go and spend it. So you should also put a check on the governors.
Okay.
And question them on how they spend the money that they collect from the federal government every month.
All right.
That's my contribution.
Okay, thank you very much, Veronica, for calling in. But the man can't be a headmaster.
One good way of doing that is
actually
to institutionalize, whistleblowing.
Aha.
You see, there must be a way. And
get people to make complaints.
Honestly,
and back up their complaints.
Yes. Once
with evidence
in place, nobody knows who is even being offered anything.
Yeah.
So you are going to find it's going to be like magic. These
are the kind of things he has to encourage, so that the whole society now knows that it's not business as usual.
Oh yes.
And you misbehave, you're going to be pulled up. Until now, that unfortunately hasn't been the case in sufficient numbers, because the point has been made that there have been here and there. But for instance, when the outgoing president said to the whole nation on television that stealing was not corruption, that sent out a signal that are we even clear about what corruption is, and are we going to reduce this to an academic subject so that while the academics are busy defining what is stealing and what is corruption, because the money is going away, it's walking away while we're at it. But the one thing you gentlemen have said is that his work is cut out for him, right? It's not exactly going to be a tea party, because I was talking about the opulence of the political class.
Yeah.
You are now saying that these people should metaphorically now be wearing jungle fatigues, metaphorically speaking.
Yes. Okay. More directly is the issue of the National Assembly.
Yeah, okay.
The people that are directly, elected as the representative of the people, they must be seen as people who are selfless. They must be seen as, as people who love their people, who can make sacrifices. And that is where I'm trying to bring a gender balance in. And this is very crucial too.
You think women are better in that regard?
I'm talking about women with pedigree, women with, who have done something outstanding in their community. That's why I mentioned Honorable Khadijat Abba Ibrahim, who have done wonderfully for her people. And that has even merited re-electing her for the third time, being the only female return in the whole of APC in the whole country. So a person like that should be given a nod to serve as either deputy speaker in the House, to be a beacon for other women. That we encourage women to come into politics and all that. And women sometimes can be better managers of resources. It's forgetting the bad some of the bad airs we have, because even among the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ, we have a Judas. So women are wonderful when it comes to managing. I'm just
happy that you're not a woman, Femi.
Well,
and that you have said all of this.
So I have a lot of connections.
Exactly. So it is unbiased. You're saying that there's a valuable resource that we have not, for whatever our reasons are, we've not been paying attention to, and we should stop shortchanging ourselves. Women should be brought more into this. Let them contribute their quota. After all, then the men are no more Nigerian.
At the leadership of national
the men are no more Nigerian
that's
than
where
the women are.
That's where our laws are made.
Got to close now. I'm so sorry about that, but thank you very much, Dr. Femi Adegbulu, Associate Professor International Relations and Security Expert, and also Mr. Yemi Makpadehu, Governance and Strategy Consultant. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you.